跟住咧，佢個冷氣咧打到嚟嗰陣時，即係你唔知嘅，先知嘅咁。你做乜啫？哎呀，真生死！哎，你生死！
You're a legend, bro.
Oh, yeah,
I'll give you a hug here, bro.
yeah, I know.
God bless you, bro.
Look, sorry,
Go, buddy.
yeah, hello, yeah. All right, sir, yeah, I know. Oh, look, I don't know what I say to Donald Trump, but he's just as responsible for the vax too because he pushed the Operation Warp Speed. So sorry about that. I couldn't stand behind him anymore.
We're gonna have a pizza party at 3:30 here.
Yeah,
You're invited.
yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, but look, well, I understand. Look, as a former Trumper, I
You're a
can't.
legend.
As a former Trumper, I couldn't stand behind him. Although my family wants to vote for Trump. Even my aunt in Canada.
Yeah.
Even my aunt in Canada said that. Even my aunt in Canada said that if we go back time, she vote for Trump.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 呢度就係 Fitness Street 嗰隊 ，OK。Okay, this is the Fitness Street, the group at the Fitness Street, okay? So, yeah. Okay, today is September 9th, which is the second rally at September, which is the possibly the 32nd or 33rd rally, Freedom Rally at Melbourne, okay? OK， 今日係9月9日，9月第2個墨爾本嘅反逼針遊行，咁亦都係9月，而家今年係30幾個自由遊行 ，OK。Yeah, I understand. Look, I wish I can vote for Trump too. I was a former Trumper too, so we should vote for Dr. Shiva Durai at the next election. Dr. Shiva is gonna contest in the U.S. election, okay?
Actually, we're gonna have a big pizza celebration about 3:30, 4 o'clock. We have all kinds of pizzas. We're gonna celebrate. That day is gonna be good, Andrews. Because we're the freedom. We love you guys. You're my brothers. You're my sisters. You know what was amazing is when they said you cannot be within 1.5 meters of anybody. Up to about 30,000 people covered one time. God bless you.
係啦，今日9月9號係啦，但係墨爾本第32個自由遊行，第30幾個自由遊行，咁咧9月第2個，所以咧就係今日少啲人，但係都冇法㗎啦，都要繼續行落去，我哋都要繼續我呢個反逼針反 Great Reset 嘅遊行 ，OK。
That's it.
Yeah, I understand.
How's life treating you? Pretty good?
Yeah, I know, feel do. I understand. Yep.
What's that? Today, 4 o'clock.
Okay, we're going to Treasury Gardens and see that group, okay? 我一落去財政部嗰度睇下第二隊一樣成點 ，OK？ Look, Dr. Shiva Durai is the best candidate that we have, okay? And he doesn't mind losing, okay? He doesn't mind if he get his election stolen again, but he's aimed to expose all those bastards behind who are stealing elections and making elections like selections, okay? And he's gonna expose all of them, okay? Dr. Shiva 話過，佢唔介意輸。佢唔介意第二次選舉俾人偷選舉，但係佢話佢今次咧肯定會令到Deep State 嗰班人，即係嗰班偷選舉搞，即係 邊個啊？啱啱偷選舉，同埋啱啱幕後勢力嗰班狗賊咧，斷手斷腳，兼且可以整到核彈嚟到炸死佢哋嘅可以。OK，he's gonna expose all those deep state actors and he's gonna set next year. It doesn't matter even if he lost the election. He's gonna detonate a nuclear bomb that could hurt them all very badly. Yep, that's the other group. Yep. Yep. The other group are more better people.
Yeah, I know. And there was also this dude called Ian Hicks, the Sydney professor, who just said, he defended the whole practice.
Dude, there's a guy you wanted to.
Oh, g'day, mate. There you go.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
What are your videos showing again?
Aussie Hong Kong
Aussie
We
Hong Kong.
typed it, but couldn't find it.
Yeah, YouTube. You got to filter. You got to go to Aussie Hong Kong, type in and then filter channel. Okay, Aussie Hong Kong. Okay.
Aussie Hong Kong, or one word, or?
Yeah, one word. Aussie Hong Kong. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, it's nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was this professor, Ian Hicks, who defended the whole practice. And then there was this doctor, Dr. Gillen, right? Your 44-year-old woman. Ruined the lives of many kids.
So there's not much difference, really. I mean, one's half a dozen, the other's 6. But yeah, I mean, it knocked me for 6 when
Absolutely. I don't know what he talking about, but the fact is, you're a cop. You know that if someone doesn't want to proceed a crime statement, that's my example.
Yeah.
Okay, then you should let him go.
Let it slide.
You're a cop. You should know these kind of procedures anyway.
But he's trying to
You're
push
ex-cop.
that.
You know that. You know that's not right. You're ex-cop. Just a disgrace all it is.
Imposing that.
What's that?
Yeah, he's imposing it onto onto the complainant, and then saying no. Now you're obliged in making the complaint.
Absolutely. Cops can't make people to. Even no matter how overwhelming evidence is, if the victim doesn't want to go after the crime, then you can't just force them to have it.
Yeah.
You should know that you're a cop. You're ex-cop.
Now, one way or the other, it's going to be shoved down our throat.
Absolutely. You should say no. You should just stand up and say no.
Just leave it at that.
Unfortunately, he doesn't. I don't know why. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I mean, I've lost the words like you are. When it reaches something like that. I don't know, God help us.
Absolutely. We should go. The fact is, if Peter Dutton on that day, if we even both say no, he's gonna say sorry. Okay, I understand, but we have to have another referendum.
Well, down the track, next time if he gets in, well, we're going to have a referendum on legislative.
Absolutely, we can't do that. Geneva Price is even much more clear than him. Let Geneva Price get the job.
Yeah, make either her prime minister and him deputy, or him deputy and her prime minister, or they can share it. Half 50% one and 50% the other. I'm not fussed either way.
But Geneva Price still have to go after the 28 pedophiles list. Okay, you have to talk to Bill Haven about this. Okay, otherwise you are complicit in protecting these 28. Okay.
Yeah.
And a proportion of these pedophile victims, guess who they are? Aboriginals.
I'm always amazed when if you victim that, if there's so much of it, why don't people come forward, or whoever comes forward, that they were abused? I mean, something happened to me.
And you know why some of the original elders or so many of them wouldn't get their voice thing? I bet they can't keep their pants down. You know who they are.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a shame if culturally, there are some cultures,
Yeah, I
that somehow
understand.
that's normal or something, or let it slide or something. Hopefully that's not the case,
Yeah, I know.
Like anything, there always will be.
I bet some of them were screwing on other people's wives or husbands anyway.
Yeah, I
But
mean-
okay, grown adults, you can do whatever you want. Grown adults are not grown adults anyway. You grown adults versus grown adult, then it's not. At least I can say, oh, you're bad, but it's not. I mean, it's a gray area. You can do that, but when it's kids, underage kids, sorry. Grown adults, I can understand.
I know, because we've always got that culture here where it becomes acceptable,
Yeah, I know.
I have never seen a single politician walk out and staff from the way. The only people who did that was like them.
And by the way, guys, did you hear about what Peter Dutton said last week that if we vote no and it go through, he's gonna have prepare to have a referendum. What the hell is he talking about?
Well, they're probably going to rig it anyway, aren't they?
Well, Peter Dutton, he's ex-cop.
Yeah.
You know when there's a crime victim that refuse to submit a report in front of you, you can't force him or her to submit a crime report.
Yes.
You're ex-cop, you know that. What's wrong with you?
That's right, who knows?
He's just trying to make out as though he's on the Aboriginal side.
That's right.
We're only saying no because what it's going to do to the boys to stop
He
it.
said, the tricky thing, he said he'll have a referendum that everybody will accept.
Yeah, because they
Not everybody will accept that.
put their Aboriginal name into it, they can do the same thing as what their land grab is, what they're trying to do.
Look, the Aboriginals just, look, it doesn't matter the two parties. The Aboriginals just want us to leave them alone and have their lives.
Same coin.
They just want them to leave alone. We don't want a referendum. We just,
tells you lose.
they just want Aboriginals just want us to leave them alone and have their lives and get on with our lives. We don't want
There's only one race, the human race.
Yeah, I understand, but if Peter Dutton is pushing again on this one, then sorry, I recognize that there's no
Well, what about all these
democracy.
Aboriginals like Wendy Byrne, who's been in charge for like 2 decades, and she has her Gucci bags and flies around in planes and that?
Absolutely.
And spent something like $4.5 billion.
And-
Where's that gone?
And these were bribed already. They were bribed with money, or some of them couldn't keep their pants down when they're facing the kids.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, how are you, mate? Yeah,
It's a stupid thing. It's a part of our platform.
Or maybe they got some dirt. Some of them maybe got some dirt, like you couldn't keep your pants when you're facing a kid, and they will kind of have to support this thing.
That's what I love. I love all going around saying, oh,
Hey, did you know what Peter Dutton said last week? He said that he's gonna have another referendum if the vote no succeed.
Of course he is.
Come on, what the hell is he saying?
That's what an opposition leader does.
Excuse
An
me?
opposition leader is to oppose.
Yeah.
Not agree, but so obviously he's agreeing because they're all one part of the other.
No, listen to me.
Two sides of the
Yeah,
coin.
I understand.
Exactly the same side.
I understand, but given his background, his background is cop. It's an analogy. When you're a cop, you see a victim said that I don't want to go after, I don't want to submit a crime report. You can't force him or her to have a crime report, right? You're ex-cop. You should know that very clearly.
He's a copper, is he?
A cop. You've forgotten in law enforcement, you can't just force people to submit crime reports.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You can't do that. But what's wrong with you, Peter Dutton? What's wrong with you? You're downright sabotaging your Geneva Prize anyway.
That's the whole thing. He also always wanting to sabotage.
What's that?
He wants to sabotage it.
Yeah, I mean, well, what's wrong with you? I mean, Geneva Prize has been spending her ass talking about no, and you say, I'm going to have
All I
another
have to
referendum.
say, We had a referendum in 1967. It was approved by the Australian people. The Aborigines are all covered under the Constitution.
In
They have the
1967,
same rights.
exactly.
Yes, right.
Exactly. They got 13 people in
And
Parliament
that's why
now.
the bullshit, man. all these people are-
change the Constitution.
Peter Dutton said he's gonna have another referendum, even if we vote no. Excuse me, you're ex-cop. You know that you can't force people to submit crime report. Even though if they're overwhelming evidence or you he got bashed or whatever it is. If he doesn't want to submit a report, then you let him go. How come he doesn't know that? You're ex-cop. You should know that. What's wrong with you, Peter Dutton?
Everything.
The thing is, he's gonna say they have a referendum that everyone accept. Sorry, the Aboriginal doesn't want it.
It's climate related or it's some violence.
Even though if you try to get everyone to accept it, sorry, Peter Dutton, you're just a Dutton, okay? Dut. Hey,
what is a woman and what is a man?
Hey, not bad. Did you hear about Peter Dutton, Dutton, said last week? He said that if a no vote gets passed, he's gonna get a referendum. Excuse me, you're ex-cop. You know that when a victim of crime, no matter how badly hurt he or she is, doesn't want to submit a crime report, then you should let him or her go. You're ex-cop. You should know that. And you're forcing people to submit. You're forcing people to vote in a referendum, which means that when you're a cop, you're forcing a victim to submit a crime report, just to boost up your stats or things like that.
It's crazy, mate.
You're a cop. You should know that you can't force people to submit a crime report.
Yep. It's all mad, mate. It's all mad.
Dutton should be called Dutton. Dutton. Dutton is called Dutton, okay? Dutton, okay? Because he's saying that he will have another referendum even if you vote no and it gets passed. And he said the Australians will accept this referendum. He will make it that all Australians will accept it. What the hell are you doing? You're ex-cop. You should know that. When someone doesn't want to submit crime report, then there's nothing you do about it. You're forcing everyone to submit a crime report.
It's insane.
The Aboriginals doesn't want another referendum. You're wasting our taxpayers' money on a bloody referendum.
Wasting our time, basically. That's what they're doing. Wasting our time, wasting our
You're
money.
sabotaging Jennifer Price's efforts anyway. You should not be at all. Let Jennifer Price take over your position. Jesus Christ.
He's 95%.
Right on this land as white people. And even if we say so, Aboriginals never had any
Did you
never any contracts.
did you heard what Peter Dutton said? Peter Dutton, D-U-T.
My arch enemy, just saying his name six my blood boil.
Peter Dutton, okay? He said last week that we will have another referendum if the no vote gets through. What's wrong with you?
Also, in Western Australia, they did laws taking away finding farmers bills to use farming to dig holes in farming land. It's about land. It's not about the Aboriginal people. It's about land.
Yeah, I understand. But you're ex-cop. You should know that you can't force people to force a crime victim to submit a crime report. Even the evidence is right in front of you that she's been bashed, he or she been bashed. If he doesn't submit a crime report, then sorry, you have to let him go. Your he's ex-cop. He knows that when a victim of crime doesn't want to submit a crime report, even though the evidence is there, then you should let them go. Unfortunately, that's what he's doing.
The voice will fail. They want to fail. They want to make us think we've got to win. That's what it is. They want to make us think we've got to win. So I'm assuming the voice will fail anyway.
What's that?
I'm assuming the voice is going to fail anyway. I'm assuming.
Yeah, but the problem is he said that he's going to have another.
Second time.
He's going to have another referendum that people will all accept. How are you going to get people to accept anyway? How? Tell me how.
What needs to be, what I want to make sure is if, first of all, their land is off limits. Native title, do not touch the Aboriginal land, that's off limits. Number two, if there's a voice, the Aboriginal people need to be able to vote on it. So for 51% majority, the voice doesn't give the voice is not it's not to represent the Aboriginal people because they're going to be able to sell the land. The Aboriginal people need to be able to vote it down and say no. A voice decision to be voted down by the Aboriginal people. There's no representation from the Aboriginal people. They're trying to get someone on the voice who can sell the land off to the Australian government. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Oh, come in. It goes about 20, 30 km down the road, and you're because I was saying we was on the flu shot. I stopped taking the flu shot.
Dutton should never say that last week. I mean, it just genifies. I feel sorry for her putting all his efforts in on stopping the voice. And he's saying that, oh, I'm going to have another
voice. The voice is not a voice for the Aboriginal people. A voice is someone who's going to be able to sell, who's going to have control of the Aboriginal assets and sell the land to the government. So they're going to own all the Aboriginal assets. It's about controlling the Aboriginal people.
Absolutely. And this whole thing will have a detrimental, generational, and for everlasting damage to them when it goes wrong. And they're going to blame, oh, you voted in. Sorry.
It's about land. They want to be able to control the land so you can't grow your own food. Something in America, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, I know.
It's about the native title. We don't have these Aboriginal rights.
The native title is the slave title, you know that?
We don't have these same issues in Africa or Asia. It's just where in America and Australia where there's land rights. It's only Australia, not America. We don't have these land rights in South America or Africa or Asia or Russia. It's just where the land rights are at stake. It's all about land control.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this whole thing, we need to stop it all off. If Peter Dutton is going to say whatever, we're going to stop it again.
If Peter Dutton doesn't do it, Anthony Albanese will be good mates. Oh, no, Peter Dutton and Anthony Albanese are the same.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know that. So we should stop them.
The only way to stop them is to show people the government's corrupt. You can't trust the government anymore.
Yeah, I understand, yeah. And you're the leader of the opposition, you say, come on, what the hell is
this? There is no opposition. There is no opposition. We are the opposition.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand.
We are the opposition is us.
Yeah.
Quite often.
I mean, did you know what Peter Dutton said last week? He said that Dutton, D-U-D-D, he said that he's going to have a referendum when he failed. Well, come on, what the hell are you saying anyway?
Because you're going to try
He
again.
said that he will accept this referendum, he will make it that all Australians will accept it.
Yeah.
He will make it that
This
Australians
one's
accept
going to
it.
fail, so they're going to try again. This one's going to...
No, Peter Dutton is an ex-cop, you know that?
Yeah.
He should know that when a crime victim doesn't want to submit a crime report, you can't force them to do that. And he's doing the same
They're
thing.
doing the same thing, aren't they? A whole lot of them are evil. They got the same master.
I felt sorry for Jennifer Price. I mean, she's putting all his efforts to know, and then her boss just say sorry.
Yeah. Politics is a dirty game.
Yeah, I understand.
Evil.
He shouldn't be called Dutton. He should be called D-U-D-D-T-O-N. Dutton. Dutton, okay? Dutton. He's a Dutton anyway.
They're not pushing. They're worried about it.
Hello, are you from Hong Kong? I'm from Hong Kong.
No, I'm not. Australia.
Mind
So you're from Hong Kong, huh?
Yeah, I know.
So tell me, what's it currently like? Because I heard there was a Hong Kong protest a few years ago
Yeah.
about the extradition bill.
Yeah.
all
And-
over.
There was a
Thank you.
pro-democracy Hong Kong,
Yeah.
right? There's this, America says they'll support their allies, right, in Ukraine, but I don't see any American flags in Ukraine. Nor do I hear them singing the Star Spangled
Absolutely.
Stride. But the hypocrisy is this. Okay, just get this camera.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy is this. When there were Hong Kong protesters waving the American flag during the Hong Kong protests,
Yeah.
singing the Star Spangled Stride.
Yeah, I understand.
Nobody seems to care. Nobody in America seems to care.
Yeah.
But suddenly, Ukraine's under attack by Russia, and we all gotta send billions of dollars to them?
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah, absolutely.
I ain't see any American flags in Ukraine. I don't recall Ukraine being America's ally. I don't see them singing the Star Spangled Stripes in Ukraine. Yet in Hong Kong, when they're like, "Yo, save us!"
Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
You guys just screw the pooch.
yeah, I understand. Because the U.S. government is a corporation. That's right. Hello. Did you know what Peter Dutton said last week? Peter Dutton.
About having another referendum.
Yeah, absolutely. He said you expect the vote no to go through, right?
Yes.
Now the problem is he's ex-cop. You should know that when a victim of crime said that he or she wants to submit a crime report, you can't force them to submit a crime report.
Yes.
And he's doing the same thing, forgotten these principles. He's ex-cop, right? He's forcing us to have a referendum.
So he thinks he's got the power to do these kind of things, and people will just follow him. So because he's in the mainstream media.
Yeah, absolutely. And he said that this referendum will be the results will be acceptable to all Australians. Come on.
Do you know what? The simple thing is, do you trust the government?
No.
No. Simple. That's it. That's the answer. No to everything.
No, the vote no is important because this thing what we have to go through. Initially, the Aboriginals have, even miraculously, they will have 10% of revenue from all this land, right? The claim Aboriginal right. But later, if anything goes wrong, goes south, the Aboriginals will get the blame.
Of course I will.
And this will be a intergenerational damage and reputational ruin for them forever. The ones that the Aboriginals vote no will resent the Aboriginals vote yes. And these repercussions will be forever.
Thank you for talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry guys, just want to talk about what's coming up on October 21st. We're doing you remember the kids rally we did a few weeks ago, we're going to do another one. And it gives us 6 weeks, so we're going to really give it a big push. Everyone is here today. Again, thank you very much. And the numbers are holding, which is all we need. As I've said before, I'm going to keep coming here as long as we've got enough people to push the trolley and hand out the flyers, because I think what we're doing is really, really important. It's just, again, we're just raising awareness, and the average public as yet still aren't ready to join us, and I'm fine with that. So I think what the strategy will be, in my opinion, if we keep coming here every week, and then we run the bigger events, which will give people 4 to 6 weeks notice, and hopefully that will get them out of their slumber and get involved, particularly because this one's about the kids. The Channel 7 program last week was really good for us. It was really good for us. Raise some awareness about the whole trans agenda. So we're going to go down that route. If you want to push some flyers on your social media, some of the electronic stuff, just contact any one of myself, V, Randall. We've all got flyers. We can put them out. We really want to give this a big push. We're also printing up some hard copy flyers, which we can drop around neighbourhoods. I really want to make October 21st a really good day, because I don't think anyone can. We'll probably get some sort of pushback. They're going to push back no matter what, the trans lobby, the Rainbow Collective, whatever they call themselves. But they really don't have a leg to stand. If we're just simply out there raising awareness about what's happening to kids, I don't think they're going to have much success in trying to stop us. So we're going to do it quite strategically. We're going to meet here and we'll have speakers along the way. So as I said, I hope you all had a really good week. If we could have a couple for the banners, please. If you want to hand out flyers, make sure you see Randy. We've got plenty of flyers this week. And we'll do it the same as we're doing every other week. We'll go down the tram tracks. We'll try and avoid holding up the public. We'll just swap over the trams and we'll have a nice clean rally and try and spread some awareness. So thanks very much, guys. We'll head off in a minute or two.
Yeah, Aussie Hong Kong.
Got a new one from Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Yeah. Did you hear about what Peter Dutton said last week? Peter Dutton.
Hey guys, just a quick one too for people heading out Lucas today.
He said that if the no go get passed through and the
if you
weapon
run out,
fail,
because I know you're all going to run out because you're going to do just
yeah,
a
he wants to say
fantastic job
whether
and
that
you're going to
accepted
blitz
by
it
all
on the public today.
You
So
are
we've got plenty of
ex-cop.
these flyers, guys. So just
Did you
put
know that he's
yourself
ex-cop?
in the box
You
if
should
you
know
run
the
out. Let's keep the
principle.
pressure on.
If some victim
I
applied
believe that
in
there's
front
going
of
to be
him
people
saying
in
that
town handing
I
out
don't
yes.
want the submit crime
So we don't
report,
want any
whether he's
yes, no, you know.
when the evidence is saying that
Right?
he's been bashed,
So just do what we're going to do, guys.
or whatever.
Keep
You
the
can't
pressure on
force
things.
crime victims to submit crime report. Has he forgotten that principle?
We'll get the trolley going, please, guys. We've got enough for that banner.
Yeah. He's forgotten the principle of the crime report thing that you can't force crime victims to a crime report. And he's pushing all this referendum thing that say he will push another referendum that we will all
Oh, 2
accept.
minutes, guys.
Ah, come on. What's wrong with you?
I know, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
It should be called D-U-D-D-T-O-N. Dutton. Dutton.
Jacob. Another Hong Kong, fellow Hong Kong.
I am from Hong Kong.
Yeah, yes.
So how long have you been here?
I've been here for many years, 1989. I come with my parents.
But they're blaming social media, though. That's the thing. Yeah, I know. I wasn't there. That's all right.
I lost my job during the vax mandate thing, and I'm still trying to find work. And there's some of the employees are still asking.
What's your job? What's your job?
I used to be St. Vincent's Hospital.
What is it? Instrument technician.
Yeah.
Vincent's Hospital.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't even know what that means, instrument.
And you gotta wash the surgical instruments and then sterilize them.
Ah, I see. In the autoclave.
What?
The autoclave.
No.
No.
It's a separate which
thing.
you have to wash and sterilize all the medical instruments for surgery.
Ah, I see.
And they force,
Sorry.
and they forced all the mandates to try to for me. And I said to them to sign a document to ensure my safety. If I get vaccine injured, they'll pay for my fees and things like that. And the supervisor said to me that it's not her responsibility to look into adverse effects.
Have you got your Australian citizenship?
Yes, I have. I'm still on Centrelink, and but they try to get me back to work. But I know sometimes I work dilemma whether to go back on work anyway because some of the bosses will just ask you for your vac status and things like that.
It's the same with a lot of teachers, they just don't want to go back.
What's that?
A lot of teachers just don't want to go back. So they were treated so badly. Why do they want to go back? Where do you put your films?
YouTube, Aussie Hong Kong.
What's it called?
Aussie Hong Kong. But you have to go YouTube, search it, filter the channel, the channel word, the channel level, and then you find me. Aussie Hong Kong. The reason why I vote no, first of all, there's three signs that I felt not right. First of all, one of the sponsors is Pfizer. That's the first red flag. Secondly, this thing will benefit Aboriginals only very short term. Even in Miracle, they have 10% of all the revenue from the claiming of parks and land and whatever it is. In the long term, when this goes sour, all the Aboriginals get to blame because you vote for it. And you will create resentment not only among non-Aboriginals or Aboriginals, but also the Aboriginals who say no. It's intergenerational damage for forever and ever.
I think a
Grab
lot
your
of them,
flyers, guys. We'll start making our way off.
a lot of them are saying no.
We got someone to give Elizabeth a hand. Yeah.
The ones who say
Brenda,
no, they treat it horribly. They say they were race traitors and things like that. Race traitors, coconuts.
Yeah, terrible, terrible.
Race traitors, coconuts and things like that. I mean, the real coconuts and race traitors are those who submit yes. And I bet some of them were forced into it because they couldn't keep their pants down. Because some of them, you know how much they have their pants down when they were. Okay, in a grey area, if you've gone for an adult like someone's wife, someone's girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, okay, then there's so much I can say. But when you are facing an underage kid, sorry, I understand the adults who want to, you know what, they're the grown adults.
All right, let's go, guys. If you're wondering why we're here, just read the banners, please. Just trying to raise some awareness, guys. You'll see people flyers. Please take some. You'll see what we're here for. We've been protesting the government for over 3 years. You'll see the justice barrier. That will take a number of forms. Justice for those who've been affected by the government's response. Justice for the children who the justice system is letting down. Justice for families. We're asking people to push back against the government that's not working in your interest and hasn't been for many, many years. Trying to raise some awareness. Please take some flyers. You'll see the banner about free speech, protect free speech. Just wait for the trams to move.
Someone else doing? There's more people videoing here.
There's currently a bill before the Federal Parliament called the Communications Legislation Amendment. The government is trying to restrict your access to free speech, your access to information on the internet. Free speech is the cornerstone of a healthy democracy. The government controls the information flow. We are not a free society, and that's what they're trying to do. We're just trying to make you aware of what the government has planned. We're also here because the government acted beyond their powers over the last 3 years. They've shown you what they're capable of. We're concerned about what they have in store.
Did you get the footage of that?
Digital ID, digital passports, central bank currency. The last 3 years have been about control. The government has shown us that they want to control every aspect of your life. We don't think they have that right. Do not cede your control to your government. They acted beyond their powers. We want consequences for those responsible. We want a free, safe future for our children. This is all about the children, it's not about us.
Peter Dutton said last week, Peter Dutton.
Peter Dutton.
He said that you have another referendum if
We're
the
the most
voice
badly
fails.
affected by what the government's
Yes,
done.
I saw that.
What the hell are you
They targeted the
thinking?
children and the elderly.
P-U-D-D-T-O-N.
What they did was totally unjustified.
Crazy, isn't it?
We want those responsible held to account.
You should know the principle when
The government
some
took away your
crime
body
victim doesn't
autonomy.
want to submit a victim of crime
They
report,
closed your
you
children's
can't force
schools.
him or her to submit
They
it.
closed your business.
And you force
They didn't have that right.
another referendum.
Yeah.
3 years later,
When you're ex-cop, you can't
it's
force
very
people to
clear
submit a
the
crime
government
report.
acted on flawed science
Exactly.
and they lied to us.
What are you thinking anyway?
Government lied, the media lied, and they are still lying. A government that is lying to its own people is a failed government. You cannot accept a government that deliberately spread misinformation. And as I said, it was the children and the elderly who were the worst affected. I know there's a football game on today. I hope you enjoy it. I hope your team wins. I also want you to think about the bigger picture. Think about what the ramifications are of what your government's done to us. Not only the last 3 years, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years. Our governments have been lying to us for many, many years, and we don't accept it. We're asking you not to accept it. We're asking you to stop complying. We're asking you to stop tolerating what you know to be wrong. And we know that many of you will not be ready to come and join in the physical protest. We want you to become active in some way. We're at the point now you don't even have to do your own research. Common sense will tell you that the government acted beyond their powers, that the government must be held to account. You've all lived through what they did. You all know it was based on lies. We don't have to tell you that. You all know this so-called virus didn't affect children. They shut us down anyway. You all know they pushed an untested product on children. Just sit back and consider that. Your own government pushed an untested product on children. We're here for those who don't have a voice. The children and the elderly. They were forced, coerced, pressured into taking a product of which the government knew nothing about. A product that has since proven to fail. So where are the consequences? Why are those responsible not being held to account? As I said, you all know, the data is in, your lived experience tells you the government acting beyond their powers. If the government does that, it's not a healthy democracy. If we are not a healthy democracy, we have to work out how do we fix it.
Hey.
And I don't know the answer.
Hey, did you know what Peter Dutton said? Hey, did you hear what Peter Dutton said?
Sorry?
Peter Dutton saying last week. He said that you have another referendum.
Yes.
If the voice fail and we vote no.
Yeah.
You are an ex-cop. You should know the principle. If a criminal crime, no matter it's been robbed, bashed, whatever, he or she doesn't want to make a crime report, you should let him or her go.
The cops are corrupt, mate.
No,
It's all part of the same system.
You're ex-cop, and you know that you can't force people to make a crime report.
I
And
know.
you're telling us to allow a referendum that we don't want? What's wrong with you? You've forgotten this principle?
Enough people complain that gave them that power
I'm not at all
to shut
surprised.
you in your house. To stop your children getting educated, or socialising, or playing sport. The government put sand in skate parks. Try and justify that to me. Don't ever forget what Daniel Andrews and his unelected bureaucrats have done to this state, this city, this once great city. We are talking about intergenerational damage that's been done. Do not let your government get away with it. You must push for justice. That's what the banner says, justice. And that takes many forms. Justice for children, justice for families,
Did you know what Peter Dutton said
justice
last
for the
week?
working
I
class.
see everything they say.
Peter Dutton
They're
said,
Who bore the brunt of their actions? The children, the working class, the families.
you're
The bureaucrats did it.
He should know that
The
you
political
can't
class
force
did it.
crime victims to submit a crime
You bore the
report.
consequence
What it
of
means
their
is
incompetence
this thing will
and
never
their
end.
cowardice.
They don't want it to
Absolutely.
end.
Because that's what it was. They
Absolutely.
acted
Just
out
to
of fear
continue more
because they
bullshit.
were scared of the
You
unknown.
know that you forgot a
They
principle when you
believed what
cop.
the
You can't
WHO
force people
said.
to submit a crime report.
And they
No
acted
matter how much you've been bashed,
Not
raped,
in your
whatever it
interest,
is,
but in
wrong.
their interest.
But you
In
forgot
the
the
interest
principle.
of big pharmaceutical companies. In the interests of globalists.
All the politicians.
The only
are bad.
beneficiaries
He's an ex-cop.
of
and
what
forgot all
happened
the
are the
principles he learned.
globalists
Just,
and the big
I
pharmaceutical
felt sorry for
companies.
Geneva Price.
The ones who are
Your
most
boss is
badly
saying no,
affected
and
were
your
you,
boss is saying yes, and
your
you're trying
family,
to vote, get the
and
no
your
vote.
children.
No, just sad.
A government that puts children at harm is a failed government. And nobody can deny that to me.
UDDTON.
If you can honestly say the government acted in your
Amen.
interest,
Liberal or together.
Yeah,
you
I
are
know.
just lying to yourself.
They want us
You
to
have to
believe
face
they're
the
against
reality.
each other.
Yeah, I
And
know.
your own government put the health of your children at risk for absolutely
The
nothing.
tricky thing is that he will have a
Your
referendum,
government
and the
put the
results
health of
that
your
everyone
children
Australia
at
will
risk
accept. How are
for
we going to accept it
nothing.
anyway? How?
They took away their education.
They will still have
They
their
shut
jobs.
their schools.
They will still go to
For
work.
what?
Their salary will
There
still
was
go
no
up.
justification. 3 years later, we know that. They lied to you. The media lied. The government
They
lied.
tell us when we can
They
work
are
and
still
when we can't
lying.
work.
So why are we
Our
accepting
salary
it?
goes down. There's
Why, as a
Yeah, I
collective,
understand.
are we accepting a government that lied to us?
in Canberra.
Why, as a collective,
Their gym
are we
stays
accepting a government
they
that put
close.
your health
Yeah.
at risk for nothing? We need to look inside ourselves and fight that inner coward and say we do not accept it. Because if we accept it, they will keep taking away your rights and liberties. They will keep putting your family at risk. They have shown what they're capable of. They have shown that they want to lock you in your house for nothing. They have shown they want to control you for nothing. So what does that mean for future generations? If we accept it, what does that mean for our children and our grandchildren? Are you prepared to have your children controlled by a government who acted out of fear and cowardice and lied to us? Because I'm telling you, the battles that you refuse to fight will be the battles that your children and grandchildren will have to fight. One of the American founders' father was a man called Thomas Paine. And he said, if there is trouble, let it be in my time, so that my children may live in peace. That is the attitude that we must take as a collective. We must protect our children's future. Because it's not about us. We all had the choice. Our children didn't have the choice. Our children were coerced, pressured, manipulated by a corrupt government, and unfortunately, as a collective, too many complied and they got away with it. Well, they think they got away with it. We are here to make sure they don't get away with it. We don't want the government to get away with malfeasance. It's not just criminal. What they did is evil. What your government has done to this country for a lot longer than the last 3 years is simply evil. And if we accept evil, what does that make us? It makes us complicit in their evil acts because we allow them to do that. We need to ask ourselves, are we prepared to allow a government to commit acts of evil on our children, on the elderly, on the most vulnerable? I see we've got a man who supports the government. I feel sorry for your son. Denial is a very sad state of affairs. That's the core question. Do you trust your government? And if the answer is no, then you need to ask the questions, what are you going to do about it? If you don't trust your government, are you going to stay silent? We'll move on, guys. Thank you. If you're going to stay silent, you are complicit in what the government has done. I understand the rationale behind complying initially. You had to. The government used the most coercive measures they could think of. They told you unless you could comply, you couldn't feed your family. Unjustifiable what they did. They put so much pressure on the people had to comply. I understand that. I understand the first 12 months why people complied, because they believed they were working in the greater good. That time has passed. That time has passed. You are no longer working in the greater good if you comply with the government that took the course of action they did. If you comply with the government, you are complicit in what they have done. You have to stand up. You have to stand up for your children. And every week we get some people who don't agree with us, but the interesting thing is they have never got any substance to their argument. It's very easy to stand back and abuse and just throw insults and say you're cookers. Nobody has yet been able to justify to me in any sense that the government was justified in what they did. And I challenge anybody, instead of just throwing abuse and saying something that was meaningless, come and talk to me and tell me why the government was justified, and you know you can't because it was totally unjustified. The government lied to you. The media lied to you for nothing. They are still lying.
Did you hear what Peter Dutton said last
Think
week?
about that, the government is lying to you.
Peter Dutton,
And now you're wondering why they want to
he said
introduce
that you have another
this
referendum when
misinformation
this
bill.
referendum failed, and we both know.
That is so they can silence you even further.
Didn't quite
This
understand. What did he
misinformation
say?
bill,
What?
He said
communications
that you have another
legislation
referendum.
Oh yeah, I heard that. Yes.
And if
Australian
the no goes
Communications
through
Media
and
Authority,
fail the referendum.
which is
Ah,
second
come on, you're ex-cop. You should know
Six
that the
women and
principle
one man
is that you
will
can't
act
force
with the
victims of
authority
crime to submit a
to
crime
fine you
report,
if they judge
even though
what
evidence
you
is
are posting
overwhelming,
on
whether
social
it's wrong,
media
whatever.
as misinformation,
You can't force victims of
up
crime
to
to have a crime report.
$1.38
It's just
million
that.
for individuals and $6.8
bit
million
hard to hear because it's so
for
noisy here,
digital
but
platforms.
is he an ex-cop, is he?
Just
Yeah.
think about that.
You
This is
should
a
know
bill
that the
currently
principle,
sitting
you can't
before
force
federal
someone,
Parliament.
the victims of crime, to
Communications
submit a crime
legislation
report
amendment.
that
If
they
you don't
don't
believe me, look it
want.
up.
Right.
It's on the government website.
And you
They are
wants a
trying
different
to
kind of
monitor what you
referendum.
consume on the
Yeah,
But
internet.
also, he's just trying to look good.
Yeah,
Do not
absolutely.
accept it.
Just
Do
trying to
not
look
allow
good and
it.
say, I'll have a referendum.
That everybody will accept. He said everybody will accept it. Come on.
Yeah.
You can't have everyone accept it.
ask yourself
The
why the
Aboriginals
government
already have
won't
advisory
consent
groups
to the
Yeah.
to the government. They already have that.
Yeah,
Advisory
absolutely.
groups.
doesn't mind
Of course they do.
This whole thing will have a generational, forever, generational damage
discovering what's
Yeah.
really
to
going
all
on.
the Aboriginals when it goes
The only
south.
reason to censor
You think it'll have damage to
is to
them?
hide things.
Yeah.
To control the
Generational
narrative.
damage.
Yeah.
The
Plus
only reason
reputational damage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with
Because they, when it goes south, they take
government
all the
doesn't think you're
blame.
intelligent
The
enough
ones
to
that
work out
vote
the
no
truth
will
for yourself.
resent the ones that
The
vote
government
yes
wants to tell you what the truth is.
forever.
This is
Yeah,
not
yeah.
acceptable.
They get resentment from both the yes and no camp.
Understand what they're trying to do with this
And
new
also-
proposed legislation. They're essentially trying to shut down any truth that they don't agree with. Not acceptable in a free society. What gives them the right to judge truth? They've made it obvious the last few years that they don't care about the truth. They only care about one narrative. A narrative that puts forward a globalist agenda. It doesn't serve the people.
Apologies if we're interrupting your day in some way, that's not our intention. We're not trying to upset people, we're trying to make people aware. That's what it's about. Again, we don't have to be here. We are only here to try and raise awareness, to try and get people to think a little bit, to push back, because you all know in your soul what happened was wrong. You all know it was wrong. And at some point you're going to have to reconcile that and start to push back. At some point you're going to have to get a little bit of courage and say, no, I don't accept the government that worked against my children's interest, that put my children at risk, that put my elderly family at risk, because that's what happened. Your own government put the children and the elderly at risk. They allowed elderly people to die alone. Where's the empathy? Where's the civic responsibility? I'll say it again, your government allowed the elderly to die alone. That's a fact. Unjustifiable. It's actually evil. They stopped people seeing their dying parents. What sort of society is that? That is not a healthy society. That is a corrupt, broken, manipulated, compromised society under the control of tyrants. I will never accept it, and in your heart you know it is unacceptable on every level. What they did is totally unjustified. There must be consequences. VSO or VicPol? What do you got? VSO? Your mandate was lifted, boys. That was a good day, yeah? About a month ago, no more mandates for VicPol and no VSO. Good day, boys. You guys happy about that? You should be. No more mandates. Have we forgotten the government mandated an untested product? Are we prepared to overlook that? Your government mandated a failed product with no long-term data. Have we forgotten that? I certainly haven't. If you're prepared to forget that sort of evil, well, that's very sad. We cannot forget what they did. Good day for the football. Hope you get your multis on. Multis with mates.
They're not running the car. Who's running?
Read those banners if you're wondering why we're here. You'll see justice.
Yeah.
You'll see protect free speech. You'll see protect children.
Who is aware of the misinformation and disinformation bill that is before Parliament? Who is aware of it? This is a very concerning bill because it's about controlling your ability to have freedom of speech on digital platforms. This is a major issue because it is about people. 7 unelected bureaucrats are going to determine what is misinformation and disinformation. And if they consider it, who are they to determine what is correct and is not correct to say. If they determine that this information is disinformation, you as an individual can be fined upwards of $1.38 million. This is the stuff of communism. It is Marxism. Democracy should not be silenced. Democracies are founded on the ability to have freedom of speech and freedom of expression.
We don't want to be divided.
Let's move off, please, guys. We have witnessed the greatest psyop in history perpetrated on the people by our own government. The greatest psyop in history. You've got to hand it to the government. They were very clever. They lied to you. They're under control of globalists and they're getting away with it unless we push back. Because there was no justification for what they did. It was all based on lies. It was all based on fear. The government was scared. The government were compromised. The government are corrupt. The greatest psyop in history was all based on nothing. We know that now, 3 years later. We don't need to do any research into it. Common sense will tell you it was all a lie. Based on what? Based on nothing. What did they shut you in your house for? For nothing. Anybody see people falling over in the street like the Chinese videos were? Anybody see children getting sick and coughing up blood? No, because it didn't happen. Children didn't get sick. Full stop. Children did not get sick. They shut them in their houses anyway. They closed the schools anyway. Children were unaffected by this so-called virus. And they put children at risk. Unforgivable. And I'll keep saying, and if you accept it, that is the judgment of the society as a whole. If enough people comply with what they know to be wrong, where does that take us for future generations? What does that mean for your grandchildren? It's a very dark path we are taking if we accept the government that is not working in the interests of our children, your friends' children, your grandchildren, your godchildren, cousins, nephews. Those who don't have a voice were those most badly affected by a corrupt government. Just let that sink in. 3 years later, we all know. You all know. Are you going to accept it? That's the question.
You can get the full story from.
We can close our eyes and hope it all just goes away. Hope the excess deaths don't continue to climb. Hope that the heart attacks start to come back to some sort of normality. And pretend it didn't happen.
So if you message you want
The WHO, the WEF, the IMF, the UN, they're putting your children's future in the hands of unelected globalists. And it seems like we don't care, yeah? People walk past. Because the football's on, racing season's coming soon, who's going to win the World Cup? Is that what's important?
Yeah, he said that he will run a referendum.
The racing doesn't matter.
And we both know.
The football's a nice distraction, we all want to look at entertainment.
He's an
It's not the obsession that the media and the government paid it out
force
to
people
be.
to submit a crime report.
I watched this week as the MCG gets absolutely cram-packed, people paint their faces over a game of football. 3 years after the government took away your liberties, we're more excited about football. Think about what the true priorities are. If you put the priority of men kicking a ball above the health of your children, you need to have a good look at yourself and ask what you are prepared to accept. You all know what's wrong. You all have to ask at what point do I stop accepting it? At what point do I realise that it doesn't matter if, what's the guy's name, Maynard, shirt-fronted somebody, and whether they get 2 or 3 weeks, that doesn't really matter in the bigger picture. It's the health of our children, the health of our society, the health of our democracy that matters.
But I can't talk properly now.
Because what we have is a legacy that was left to us.
And he's ex-cop. You should understand the principle that you can't force a crime victim to submit a crime report.
Yeah, yeah.
No matter how much we rob, he or she be robbed or bashed, okay? But he forgot that principle.
For what platform are you filming?
Yeah.
No, which platform?
Aussie Hong Konger.
Sorry?
Aussie Hong Konger YouTube. You gotta go to YouTube, Aussie Hong Konger, and then filter, and then go to filter, and go to channel, and you find me.
So is it OZ?
Aussie Hong Konger. Aussie Hong Konger, yeah.
Or AUSSIE?
Yeah, Hong Konger.
Because you know digital ID's coming, yeah. They talk about it, digital ID, how does that sit with the average punter?
The lady on the pathway just opposite the street is a yes voter. Why is she a yes voter? She's calling for Indigenous rights. What she doesn't recognise is that through the democratic process, there are already 11 MPs from First Nations backgrounds. It is all about control. It's division, it's apartheid. And you're the one calling yes.
Question everything, that's what we're asking. It's now clear you can't trust your government. If there is any doubt about whether you can trust your government, that has gone over the last 3 years. You cannot trust your government. And if you can't trust your government, what are you prepared to do about it? If you don't trust your government, are you prepared to stand up to them? At some point you're going to have to, because they're going to keep taking away your freedoms. They've shown what they're capable of.
Like that?
Yeah.
They've shown the authoritarian steps they will take when they believe there's a pandemic, a so-called pandemic with an average age of death of 85.5. They shut you in your house for nothing.
No, yeah, I'm on Facebook, but I got YouTube channel. Facebook, I'm using YouTube channel.
What's coming next?
Okay.
I keep saying that they've shown what they're capable of. They've shown what they will do based on flawed science and lies. They've shown they can lie to you. They've shown you that the media lies, the government lied, the corporations lied, the unions lied. Who stood up for the working class? All you putting your taxes into the economy that doesn't respect your rights? Because it's the working class that will fail. It was the families that were failed. Don't ever forget what they've done.
I wrote this.
Don't ever forget.
Because
and don't ever forgive those responsible.
If 15% of the population of my father's approach,
they took away your basic liberties, your freedom.
No jab deaths or injuries.
So absolutely
He
nothing.
stood up for freedom.
Yeah.
From when he was a little boy, facing Nazi firing squads.
As a country, is that what we've been talking
To get that, you know, all of this will make sense.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, thank you.
Depends on your definition of normal.
50% of population, yeah, I understand, but it's not easy.
If you believe
I lost my job during the mandates. Are you ex-military?
2 years in and out of
I
lockdown.
thought you are. You were in the
After 2
parade.
years of
Yeah,
having
my
your freedom
dad
stripped
got that.
away.
It's a Polish.
2 years of having your body autonomy
all
taken.
right.
If you think we're back to
I
normal,
want you ex-military or something like that.
well, that's just simple denial. We are not back to normal. We never will be.
He's
If they have
ex-military
destroyed
and
the
he's
faith
ex-Holocaust.
of government in this country, they took away your body autonomy for nothing. They took away your freedom for nothing. Ask why depression is up. It's doubled since pre-COVID. Prior to COVID, 8% of Australians were on antidepressants. Now it's 18%. That's what the government's done. That is the government's legacy. The mental health of children was put at risk for nothing. Are we going to accept it? I'm asking you seriously. It's a nice day to go to the football. It's also a nice day to consider whether you accept the government that's not working in your interest or your children's interest. If you don't care, that's okay. What about your children? What about the future you leave your children?
Is this guy doing an indoor movie or what?
We remember these and yours is Peter Scott, as I used to know of Peter Scott.
We'll just wait here a minute, guys. We'll sort out what's going on. So we're going to wait here for 15 minutes, guys. We'll hand out some flyers. If you want to grab a coffee, we'll let the busker finish. Again, we're not trying to upset anybody or ruin anyone's day. So we'll just have a bit of a break for a few minutes. Because we're decent.
Drifter, shut up!
Did you know what Peter? I'm sure you know what Peter Dutton, D-U-D-D-T-O-N, said last week. He said he's going to have another referendum if this fails.
Yeah, you were saying before.
Come on, you forgot all your principles when you're ex-cop. You can't force someone to submit crime report, and you're forced into have another referendum, and you think that he will have a result that we'll all accept. What the hell is wrong with you, Peter Dunn?
Shut up, mate.
Another 2 minutes, guys. Stay here.
Nothing to be afraid of. It's okay. I am professional. That is why I work on the street. Now listen up. When I was your age, I was in the exact same position as you are on this moment. The person taking the jump told me to not move. So I moved. I'm the kind of dickhead. I guarantee you the best for me to flip really high is nothing. I can flip very high. Let me show you how high I can really flip. Shut up. You can play you right there. Just like that. Stand right behind him. I need a nice, strong man. How much you want to do? Your hand real quick? Come on, man. Don't be scared. Why y'all scared for, man? I'm not going to bite you. I need a man, a nice, strong man. Anybody? I really don't have to. I'll cancel you first. I mean, you just have to stand there. That's all, man. This is the hard part about shooting things. Don't be scared, man. Come on, man. Everybody make some noise for Eminem. Come on. Thank you very much, man. Thank you. Over there.
Look, I'm sure you heard about what Peter Dutton said last week. Peter Dutton. Yeah, he said that it looks like he anticipates something, that this boys thing will fail, and if it fails, he's going to put out a referendum and have a result that everyone will accept. How are you going to get everyone to accept anyway? Plus, he's ex-cop. He should understand the principle that you can't force some crime victim to submit a crime report, no matter how much he or she been bashed, robbed, or slashed. Okay, he can't submit a crime report, forcibly submit someone's crime report to boost your crime stats, okay? Have you forgotten that? He should be called Peter Dutton, Peter D-U-D-D, D-double-D, Dutton, okay?
Question government, that's what we ask.
And how are you going to get Australians to accept, all Australians to accept it anyway? How?
We're not buskers over here.
Aboriginals
Information spreaders is what we call that.
And this thing we have to stop it because it costs not only it will cost the loss of land rights and things like that, but it will cost like intergenerational no one's unavoidable anyway, and they get blamed. All of it get blamed for all this crap, and they'll resent the yes camp, and they'll cause a huge self-resentment among them too. Intergenerational. It's not only that, but also an intergenerational reputation damage. Total damage. It's an intergenerational reputation damage. And also they will also on land. Initially they may, if you're a miracle, you got 10% out of the whole thing, park claims and things like that. But later when it goes south, they'll take all the blame. And this reputational detrimental to the reputation in the generation. That's why I have to stop it. And another red flag. Pfizer's in on it. Oh, look at that. Look at that, he's hiding in. Hey. There we are.
Don't start slowing to the
Over there.
Yeah, hide. You can bloody vote yes.
What's that? Hey, look at that, over there.
Oh, vote yes person. Alright, she's hiding. The yes person's hiding. I wonder why. The House of Representatives.
It's yes person. Hey. There's a yes person over there. She's hiding. Yes person.
There's a vote yes card. Vote yes for tyranny, taking away your land rights, making you into a little 15-minute city prison. You're going to be locked in your own little cell, no rights, you're going to be in a 2x4 cubicle, and the government wants to kill you. She's voting for that rights. Tyranny rights for the government, that's what they're supporting. Not that guy and the girl behind the chairs. So you want to vote, you want to support tyranny, vote yes. You lose your rights to live in your own land and your own home. You want your own home taken away from you and you're living forced jabbed and die, vote yes. If you want to live the way you want to live your life, the way you want to live it, vote no.
Issuing my will. Issuing your right. I was issuing my will at midday today, so that's why I was a bit late.
Who was there?
It's actually about 12 of us today.
There you go, Lee.
Was that
It's about 12 of us today.
was that lady from Tassie go there?
Do you know Trish Oak?
We might as well just take a trolley over, boys. Take a trolley over and I think.
No, I was thinking Karen.
Oh no, Karen. Yeah, well, Karen Brewer. She's up in
Queensland. Yeah.
This guy knows everyone is.
Who?
This guy here.
Are you?
Yeah, he knows everyone.
Not everyone.
Around.
Yeah, so I reduced it already, but I still have to come, alright? And there was a yes vote over there.
What's today? 99.
It is 99-23. Do you want to sign a petition?
Alright, kids, head in. Can you make the room right here? I'm going to be running through. No. This is where applicable for all the volunteers. If you're white, get your 10 and 16s GoPro. iPhone 13 ready. If you're Asian, get ready. Pop out now. You get this line? Just remember this moment. That's the
Yes, continue.
Afternoon, guys. We're here for a little bit different reason. We're not going to try and entertain you. We're just trying to raise some awareness about some of the biggest issues facing this country in our lifetimes, our parents' lifetimes, issues that affect our children and our grandchildren. We've been demonstrating for over 3 years, trying to raise some awareness, trying to bring the government to account, trying to get some justice for those affected by their actions. I'm just going to say a few words today about the voice. Again, the biggest issue facing us for a long, long time. The government is trying to divide us again. And I don't usually speak on the voice because I know my perspective will be a little bit different to most. But bear in mind that everything I say is based on history and what is currently happening in this country. It's based on government data. It's based on the real world. My perspective on the voice is I'm going to vote no, because I do not want the government to divide us any further than what they have been doing for many, many years. They are trying to divide us and they've been very successful. The voice is simply dividing people on race. And the first reason I'm going to vote no is because Pfizer is pushing the yes vote. That immediately rings alarm bells to me. Why would a big pharmaceutical company, the biggest criminals in the world, be involving themselves in a program to push the yes vote at an Australian referendum? It's simply wrong. And people ask, I actually read the Uluru Statement from the Heart, and it was very light on detail. There's a lot of rhetoric there. They're simply saying that we've been here for 60,000 years plus. We've been discriminated against, we didn't cede sovereignty, so on and so forth. There's a lot of rhetoric, but there's no clear, concrete solutions. There's no directions offered in the statement. So if we vote yes, as a country, we are handing the government free rein over what the voice actually entails. There's no details on it. They keep saying the Aboriginals, the Indigenous people, need a voice in this country. Well, the truth is they already have a voice. There's a body called the National Indigenous Australians Agency. It's been around since July 2019, so 4 years. It has a budget of $4.5 billion. It has staff of 1,286. They operate out of 39 commercial office spaces across Australia. They have a voice. They're on there. If you go to the website for the NIAA, their mission is stated as to provide a voice, recognition and empowerment for the Indigenous. That is their mission statement on the National Indigenous Australians Agency, which has been around 4 years, has a budget of $4.5 billion. In this country there are currently 3,278 Indigenous corporations, all government funded. These corporations include such things as the IBA, which is the Indigenous Business Australia, whereby if you identify as Indigenous, you are entitled to home loans of 1.14%. And again, if you look at the corruption and the graft and the grifting that goes on with organisations like that, a friend of mine, I was speaking to him just yesterday from Queensland, his neighbour discovered that his great-great-grandmother was apparently Indigenous. He got a local tribal elder to give him a certificate, and he's now entitled to a home loan of 1.14%, which is the average working class person in this country. Are you entitled to that? My son certainly isn't. First home buyers, if you're part of the IBA, are entitled to have a deposit as low as $1,500. Again, we're opening ourselves up for corruption because the voice, there's no clear direction of what they're planning. They're simply saying, trust us, we are going to give the Indigenous a voice. When we already spend nationally $33 billion on Indigenous programs. And that figure's easy to check, it's on the web, it's on the internet. We have been throwing money at the Indigenous problem for over 140 years. We first started giving welfare to the Indigenous in 1883 with the Aboriginal Protection Board. And again, there's been a lot of failures along the way, but the intention has been to try and, as they say, close the gap. And that's failed. Whatever we've been doing, it has simply failed. We've been throwing money at it for 140 years. This year, $33 billion. If you go back to ATSIC, the Australian Torres Strait Islander Collective, which was 15 years, an average of $1.1 billion, which was shut down in 2004. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent trying to solve a problem that the government now says, throw more money at it, give us more power and we will solve it. I simply don't trust the government. I don't trust them to be handed more power than they already have to solve a problem that they haven't been able to solve for the last 140 years. It's a very complex, difficult problem, and simply ceding them the power will not solve anything. Again, part of that $33 billion, there are 243 Indigenous title bodies in this country. And again, the ramifications of what this means for the average working class citizen. In New South Wales, there are currently 40,000 claims through the native title bodies for culturally significant sites. There's a council in southeast Queensland called the Redland City Council. They are currently being sued by the native title body for 2,500 culturally significant sites in one council. And they are being funded to the tune of $28 million of your taxes to fight this against the Redland City Council, which only has its taxpayer funds to fight them back with. The corruption, the grift, the graft, if we allow the voice to go through, it will only get worse, because as I said, the government has failed in every opportunity to try and close the gap. And who will benefit if the voice goes through? In my opinion, it will be light-skinned Indigenous identifying themselves as Indigenous. It will not be the ones most at risk who will benefit from this. Because as I said, the gap hasn't been closing. The harsh reality is, an Indigenous woman in Australia is 35 times more likely to be the victim of domestic abuse. In the Northern Territory, they are 85 times more likely to be the victim of domestic abuse. A woman in Central Australia is 95 times more likely to be hospitalised from domestic abuse. Where is the government plan to solve these problems? Who will be benefited by us giving the government and light-skinned Indigenous people who sit in cafes in Brunswick and pontificate about, we were oppressed, we didn't see sovereignty? Who's looking after the women and children of the Indigenous communities in Arakan in far north Queensland who are being decimated by their own peoples? Indigenous children are up to 10 times more likely to be the victim of domestic abuse in their own home. Where's the government plan to solve these problems? The real problems facing the Indigenous. And I'm sick of light-skinned Indigenous people telling me that they're oppressed and they need more money, they need a bigger say, they want the government to legislate for them to have power, and I guarantee you, well, I don't believe they have any intention of solving the real problem with Indigenous in this country. And that's a harsh reality to accept. The harsh reality is the solution will only come from the community itself, simply throwing money at it and giving more power to these light-skinned Indigenous bureaucrats like Lydia Thorpe. Lydia Thorpe's nearly as white as I am, and she continually preaches that she's the oppressed class. There was a Q&A on Monday night on the ABC. There was a young man on there, and the only reason I could tell that he was Indigenous is he kept saying every time he spoke, as a proud white and Johnny man, I am oppressed and my people have been discriminated against for years. He was whiter than I was. These are the people benefiting from initiatives such as the NIAA and The Voice. When it comes through, I guarantee you it will not work out for those who are most at risk in this whole process. And it gets back to you trust your government. They won't give you any detail. Go and read the Uluru Statement from the Heart. There's no detail about, there's no solutions offered. It's simply a request for more power and more funds. Again, there's some really harsh realities. We tend to think that in a perfect utopia, we can't close the gap, and prior to, the colonisers are painted as evil. And again, I've had enough of that. I've had enough of being welcomed to my own country. I've had enough of my ancestors being portrayed as evil. History does not paint the picture that you are seeing through the press. And I'll give you some confronting statistics. There was a convict called William Buckley. He escaped in 1803. He spent 33 years living with the Wallaranga tribe, which were down on the west coast, Lorne, Torquay, Big River area. 33 years he was with them. He wrote a diary, he kept the diary, the book was published. He became, quite notorious as a public speaker after he went back to civilised society. In those 33 years he witnessed 14 intertribal massacres. There's a site just down here in Brighton, Lancox Park. There was a massacre there in 1834 called the Wirraween Massacre. 77 members of the Bunurong tribe were massacred by the Kulin tribe. So whenever someone says to me, well, this is my people's land, is it the Bunurong land or is it the Kulin land? Do they have sovereignty amongst their own tribes? And again, these are difficult questions to ask, but if we have come and taken the Kulin land, well, the fact that they took it off the Bunurong, who is actually the sovereign owners of Lancox Park in Brighton? And these are questions you won't get answered. You won't see these questions asked in the media because it doesn't suit the narrative of the noble Indigenous who were butchered by the Europeans. There was a very violent culture prior to European settlement. And I'm not saying that what the Europeans did was right. Of course, the human frailty, the human condition brings it manifests all sorts of evil. But evil is not exclusive to those of European heritage. So, again, confronting stuff, but The Voice, in my opinion, with no detail, no specifics, if we vote yes, we are opening a can of worms, and who will be oppressed the most? Those who need it, the Indigenous who are being abused, and people like my son who will not get the benefits that the government wants to bring in by introducing privileges based on race. They are trying to force equity. Equity never works. Equity is forced equality. It is Marxism, it is socialism, it is communism. You cannot make everybody the same. Another harsh reality. If we are not a meritocracy, if we start giving out privileges to those who don't deserve it, whatever colour they be, whatever creed they be, as a society we will fail. We are going down a Marxist path. And look who's behind The Voice. Thomas Mayo. You may have seen him. He's been very prominent in the news. He's a big push. He describes himself as an Indigenous man from the Torres Strait Islander. The truth is, his mother is a Polish Jew. His father is a Filipino Borneo mix. Thomas Mayo, whose real name is Thomas M-A-Y-O-R, he dropped the R to make it more palatable and more Indigenous. Thomas Mayo is not an Indigenous man, and he is one of the architects of The Voice. Thomas Mayo is a communist. If you don't believe me, again, if you Google it, you'll see Thomas Mayo quoting his communist elders. These are the people pushing The Voice. These are the people who will benefit. I say it again, those in need. The women in Arakoon or Central Australia or Far Northwestern Australia, they will get nothing from The Voice. The only ones who will benefit will be light-skinned people identifying as Indigenous, taking away your rights, your children's rights. They are trying to divide us on race. Do not let the government divide us on race. Do not vote yes to this bill we know nothing about. You must vote no. If you don't know, do not vote yes. You must vote no. That's all I'm going to say.
Tell them they're going to write it too. They can't tick or cross, they've got to actually write no.
As Tom pointed out, you must write no on the ballot. All right, we're going to have a few more speeches, guys. I know it's controversial stuff, but it's stuff that must be addressed. You can't just pretend that some sort of utopia will manifest out of voting yes. There are harsh realities that need to be faced. Well, I'm just going to put you over to have a bit of a chat about digital cities.
All right, who's aware of the 15-minute neighbourhood? If you are not, you should be. It's also known as the smart city. Now, if you look around in this square alone, there's about five cameras that I've counted. What are they there for? They tell you it's for safety, but it's digital facial recognition. The same exists in countries like China. Now, what gives the government the right, or the local councils, to control what you should and shouldn't be doing? Because it's not about safety, it is about control. It is about control.
That person's gone. That person's gone.
They're over there. The yes one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, look at that. They're trying to.
And they don't know that's the two from our side, you know.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see what happens.
Oh no, he's come back.
What is this 15-minute city? It is 15 minutes walking and cycling. It is not even driving.
Yes.
Think about it. They won't hook you up in your 15-minute little bubble. And if you think this is something way off in the future, you are seriously mistaken. Because there are plans underway and there is legislation in place. And they will tell you from that point what you do, where you go, and how you live. There is a document called C40. Sydney and Melbourne are signed up to it. Now, this isn't a point about vegetarianism, because anybody and everybody can do what they want. The point is, one of the initiatives within this C40 document is that by 2030, the city of Melbourne and its residents will have zero consumption of meat. Now, who is the government to tell you what you should and shouldn't be eating? They're also going to do it with medications. We've seen it already. They did it with the COVID. They locked you down. They forced a vaccine into you, and you had a passport. Papers, please. This is the plan. Your social credit score system, which will link to your ID, your digital ID, is all about what they will tell you, saving the environment. They're going to control where they send your kids to school. They're going to control when you can go away, where you go and leave, how to buy a house. They're going to understand and they'll know what medications you have and haven't had. And if you're determined that you don't want to have it, they are going to they are going to remove your credit score and you will not be able to do anything. This is all in the planning. It's all underway. It's not hard to find the information. Just Google Agenda 2030, United Nations.
Thanks, Lee. Who's looking after the children? The government certainly aren't. You might have seen this week the young boy who was abducted in his car. and then dumped after they youth gang took his phone and runners. They captured the ringleader, 14 years old, who was current at that time on bail with 30 charges pending. How's the legislature working out for your children? Imagine if that was your child who was abducted outside school, robbed of his phone and shoes, thrown out of the car with life-threatening injuries, he may never recover, by a young man who was part of a gang who had 30 outstanding charges and was on bail. The police commissioner was on the radio yesterday and he said of the gangs involved, they have an average of 10 offences per year, and these boys are aged between 14 and 17. So how's the legal system working out for looking after your children? They're certainly not. It was only 2 weeks ago a young girl was raped by a young man named Tyler Sullivan. 12 years old girl was raped by a 21-year-old. The magistrate, whose name was Richard Meadmont, decided that 12 months jail was a suitable punishment for raping a 12-year-old. How's the legislature working out for our children? It's not. Earlier this year, a judge by the name of Gerald Mullally decided that Jeffrey Coffrey, who admitted to sexual penetration of a 14-year-old boy when he was 44 years of age, didn't deserve a custodial sentence. How's this legislature working out for our children? They're not. Our government is not looking after our children. And it gets back to what we're prepared to accept. If you're prepared to accept it, that's very sad. There needs to be systemic change in this country because they are putting the health of children at risk. I'm going to put you over to Melinda.
Don't know if any of you heard, but during the week there was an interview with Anthony Albanese and he was posed a hypothetical question. What would you do if you had no restrictions? If you were in government for 5 years, there were no elections, you're not accountable to anyone, what would you do? His first response was, ban social media. Have a think about it. Why does he want to ban social media? He said there's too many keyboard warriors. There's too many people discussing the truth. There's too many people talking outside the narrative. That's what he's saying. Why? What are they so scared of? Why are they trying to shut down your speech and open discussion? Have a look at the government's behaviour the last few years. The way they push things on you. The way they shame you if you don't agree or don't comply with their directives. There's no laws behind these. It's just government fear-mongering, pushing you, belittling you, shaming you into complying with their narrative. It's all been starting to crumble. People are seeing through it more and more every day. Now they're getting more desperate. They're introducing legislation to try and stifle free speech and free information sharing. Look at the record in the last few years. It all started off with a lie about cases of COVID based on PCR tests that don't detect viral infection. So you got skyrocketing cases of nothing. Then they lied about the deaths by changing the way death certificates were filled out. They got people listed as dying from COVID when you had a positive PCR test. Once again, not necessarily an infection of any kind. You had a positive PCR test, you went down as a COVID death. Then they lied about the reasons for lockdowns. They kept saying it was based on the scientific data and the scientific evidence. Where is it? They never produced it. At one stage, a flimsy opposition demanded they produce the evidence. Still to this day, they never have, because they never had any. Or was it just another lie? One after the other after the other. They lied saying there's no treatment, that you had to sit and wait for a vaccine. They suppressed and shut down treatments like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. Simple things like vitamin C, vitamin D, strengthening your immune system. All of these things they told you you couldn't do. You had to sit and wait for a vaccine. When that finally came out, they lied about that too. They told you once you get this, the virus stops with you. No one else can catch it. We all know now that was a big fat lie. They lied about it protecting you from hospitalisation. Then they lied about it protecting you from death. One after the other after the other. This is a government that now wants to have the power to control what's considered truth, what's considered misinformation. The bill before Parliament at the moment, Communications Legislation Amendment. They want to give you fines of up to $1.3 million as an individual for spreading misinformation on the internet. Digital platforms can have fines of up to $6.8 million for the same reason. Once again, it's got nothing to do with truth, it's got nothing to do with spreading lies. It's got to do with spreading what the government deems as misinformation. How can they possibly be given that role to determine what's misinformation and what's true based on their behaviour the last 3 years, when it's just been one lie after another, with the mainstream media in their pocket, propagating the same lies with no accountability, no discussion. We need to stand up for this and say it's not acceptable. You need to stand up against the government that's trying to rule in an authoritative way. You need to stand up and stop complying to the nonsense that they keep pushing onto you, because it is going to keep happening. It's not back to normal. This so-called new normal is a load of crap that we don't accept. You need to say that, you need to do it. Talk amongst your friends. More and more people are beginning to realise a lot of people are feeling isolated with it. Talk to people, you'll find that you're now in the majority. You just need to do something. You don't necessarily need to march the streets the way we do, but just talk to people, change your behaviour, don't give the government the power, don't comply with their nonsense.
Thanks, Melinda. A government that lies is a government that's failed. It's as simple as that. Our government's been lying to us for many, many years, and we've got to work out what we're prepared to accept. Our government lied to us. All right, we'll probably move off, guys.
All right, yeah.
To take anything away from this, hopefully you start to do a little bit of looking into what's been going on. You don't even have to do any research now. Common sense will tell you it was all based on a lie. It's the greatest psyop in history, guys. The greatest psyop in history is all based on a lie.
Yep, there's a whole bunch of yes, voting yes.
Average age of death 5.5. It's not a pandemic, it never was. Please. So those handing in the vote yes card, can you please tell me what the details are and what are we voting for? You cannot give the government control when they will not give you the detail. Read the Uluru Statement from the Heart. And when they offer no solutions, all they offer is empty rhetoric. They want you to feel good. They don't want any tangible results.
Yep. Okay, I'll end it here today. Okay. I have to go home today earlier because yeah, some issues. So yep. For those who are working the last few years, but things, all the things the last few years, please subscribe my channel. And if your family and friends who worked the last 3 years and last 2 months, subscribe my channel. And yeah. OK， 我今日要睇到完啦。咁咧就如果你想，如果各位係呢幾年國慶嘅話，請你 subscribe 我 channel。如果你朋友親朋戚友或者乜都好，你呢3年嚟國慶咧都叫佢 subscribe channel。OK， 就咁多。OK，拜拜。